Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of the evening that the infamous Barr Turn jacket is presented to one lucky bee. As you may have noticed since the start of this video, I'm currently not present at tonight's formalities. Apologies extended to all. Last year, this award was presented in an unruly, dubious fashion by Mark the Man Appletown, and I still feel I was wrongly presented with the jacket. However, with no complaints, I accepted such a well-renowned award and took on all responsibilities that came with it. I may mention, however, that I never actually wore it to a club function or event. Probably a club first. Again, apologies, but I surely couldn't have been a worse Barr Turn recipient than Apples. But this did lead me to think, what does it take to be a worthy nominee or honourable recipient of the Barr Turn, and on what grounds can you be presented with this award? After discussion with Dr. Jebb and Daniel Brocock, it is my understanding that the Barr Turn is to be presented for cricket-related incidents and events. You must also possess a quality to be able to speak fluently and clearly in front of a large crowd and present a speech that will be humorous and civilised. Another quality I feel Sneaky failed to examine before putting the jacket on Apple's shoulders. Those of you who were there, we can erase last year's Barr Turn presentation from our memories. This year, however, we have several worthy contenders for the horizontally striped jacket. Many outrageous tales have been filtering through my emails, spanning across the entire club and all grades, which is what was wanted. This year, I've gone for a more civilised approach in presenting the award, counting down the top 5 Brett Dories of the year. Start off, there are a few honourable mentions to give out. Blocker Roach, for moving the sight screen for his Sesame Street brother Dan Ferrara, then using the screen to do leg stretches. Blocker, use your head, mate. Adi Galati, ringing Jebby the night before a game and explaining to him how his doctor recommended he shouldn't play due to his antibiotics medication. A few hours later, one of his friends had uploaded 30 to 40 photos of him featuring heavily on the circuit on a boys' weekend up at the Central Coast. Lockie Marston, pre-planning to bowl his wicketkeeper. Very rare. Ian Camajo, doing the full Monty in the slips cordon for an over, and no one realising. Even rarer. Angus Robson, thinking his car was in drive and reversing into a parked car. All good stories and notable nominees, but none have done enough to take the cake. In at 5th place, we have Josh Facebook poser Dunning, as he has shown that he is a very worthy contender for the coveted Barr Turn trophy, featuring in 2 very dubious, very Campbelltown-esque displays of his intelligence on a cricket field. First of which I was lucky enough to be on deck for. In our PG semi-final against Penrith, it seemed to be the pattern all year that our top order yet again failed to put on a total. With the 9th wicket falling with the score on 82, out strode young Josh. Those who have played with him know that he doesn't go very far without his mobile. Strapped to his chest could be a good way of putting it. As he walked out, he must have noticed, gee, my thigh pad's got a strange lump in it. And instead of walking to the centre of the pitch to inspect the minefield, he walked over to square leg, pulled out his micro, and handed it to the obviously amused umpire. I'm sure he wasn't as amused after he received 55 calls from the blokes in the sheds. The second incident that he was involved in was seen in a one-day game. Before the game had started, Josh asked his skipper, "So what happens in a one-day game if we don't get them all out? Who wins?" Though he had nothing. Good effort, Josh, a well-deserved 5th place. Lewis David Dawson Tully has snuck into 4th, with many, many, many good and obvious reasons. There isn't enough time left in this century to explain why, but one story is all that can be told tonight. Many may not know of this, but during the first grade semi-final, Lewis was fielding at cover, and I was fielding next to him at point. Being the easily amused person Lewis is, he picked up something out of the grass and yells out, "Oi, Walks," and throws a massive witchetty grub in my direction. He then asks me to eat it, to which I reply, "You eat it." "How much will you give me?" he says, my reply being, "I'll buy you a chicken roll." And without hesitation, Lewis walks over, picks up the pudgy, juicy, still squirming bug, puts it in his mouth whole, and swallows it. Considering the importance of the game and the situation the team was in, I feel it is a very acceptable nomination for Lewis. Steaming into the podium is Tim Detective Lang. Although Tim would also have various incidents throughout the year, the one he has been noted for was also during the semi-final. Langy, who these days moves as freely as a robot, manages only to bowl off a few steps. Due to his previous injuries and lack of bowling earlier this year, his fitness and body does not allow him to bowl for an extended period of time, which we saw in this game. During his ninth over, Langy was putting in the hard yards searching for a much needed wicket, but even machines wear out, and Langy, desperately needing a rest during his mammoth spell, paused at the top of his 3-metre run-up, held up the entire game and began stretching, telling the umpire, "Just got a stitch, mate, give me a sec." Good effort from coach, who is still apparently waiting for an apology from Dorso. The final story brings into contention our two top place nominees for the 2011-2012 Barr Turn trophy. It is obvious that due to his on and off field antics, Christopher Peter Tremaine was going to get a mention somewhere in tonight's speech. Along with Lewis and Detective, the Cut Snake has many reasons to be nominated, most of which will not be mentioned, although if I was Apples I probably would have told the world. Not only has Tremors signed one of his mates' fridges with his playing number, but I have been told by many and various sources, none to be mentioned, like Coach Like Bowler, that he doesn't mind dropping the "I play for New South Wales" bomb and "Can you bowl 3 balls?" But the main reason why he has featured at the pointy end of the presentation is because of his superb efforts in the baggy blue. Deservedly, Tremors made his Shield debut this season at the MCG. Now, I haven't played for New South Wales, but I can say that if I did, I would have every piece of gear and clothing ready and packed. Well, Tremors, being the Paul Hogan he is, obviously did pack everything he needed for his big game. Bat, gloves, pads, whites, the whole lot. However, his playing pants is what caused so much havoc. Any cricketer that makes their debut for their state would maybe acknowledge their previous club in a pre-game speech or a thank you to the secretary. Tremors took it one step further. After taking his first wicket, bouncing around like a little kid on a trampoline, he assembled with his teammates in a huddle, throwing around high fives and getting smacks on the head. If my sources are correct, it is my understanding that it was Trent Copeland who first noticed and asked Tremors in a not so polite fashion, "What are you wearing?" Tremors, with his usual boyish, confused, yet somehow confident look, replied, "My uni pants." Well, now phrases such as "you can't do that" were being thrown around, to which Trem replied, "Well, clearly I can, because I have." Typical. But our final Barr Turn nominee and potential winner was also involved in this particular game. Craig David Dawson also earned his New South Wales debut in the same game as Chris after an outstanding season. But not to worry, Dawes, this award, probably the first for tonight, isn't going to you. Our evergreen president, Mr. Andrew Price is Right Jones, was also on scene. There was no one else appropriate in town, so Jonesy was called upon by Cobweb and Craig to present their baggy blues. During the presentation of Dorso's cap, Jonesy, in his usual polite and friendly way, began banging on about how good of a bloke Dorso was and how he's a genuine first-class player, thoroughly deserves his cap, all the usuals. But as aforementioned, Tremors was also on debut, and again Jonesy began to speak. However, his rant about Tremors was not as forgiving and courteous as his speech about Dorso. One would expect that in a situation where you are representing your state for the first time, you would want your cap presentation to be unforgettable. Well, I'm sure Jonesy did a good job with it. He began to ramble on about how Tremors came to the club from Yeovil, just outside Dubbo, how he had a bit of a shoulder injury pre-season and just a little bit of general background. But then Jonesy decided to turn it right around, as he told the entire team that the year before his first season, Tremors came down for the annual dinner and presentation night. He came as a baby-faced 17-year-old and had a few too many orange juices with Dan Christian, and how he was a bit of a pisshead. He then concluded the speech by saying, and I'm quoting from Tremors' mouth here, Jonesy, "Chris is one of my favourites because he's just a little bit loose and bowls okay." So all in all, the only thing Jonesy really said about Tremors' cricket on his New South Wales debut was that he bowls okay. Now, the top two placed individuals are Trem and Jonesy. And after hours of thinking and debating with myself, you're just too loose and too rare, Chris. But it is not often that you get to present an award to your club's president for doing something stupid or regrettable. You're an extremely tough nut to crack. Some may say uncrackable. But Jonesy, congratulations. You are the 2011-2012 Barr Turn winner.